You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to this week's episode of Stupid Bitches Say What, the Aussie podcast about everything and nothing, but always with wine, and your hosts, Skyly Collett and Sean Hepkins.
This week, we continue our trip down Spookyville Lane for Halloween and go back in time. Listen in as we revisit some of the horror movies that scared the absolute bejesus out of us when we were just mere children and baby adults. Buckle up as we discuss the horror movies of yesteryear.
Ooh.
You stupid bitch. Pray tell, what are you drinking, Sean Beno Hipkins?
Well, Sky, I think you've actually had this one before. It's a heresy, so it's a naked wine.
I have had the heresy, yep.
And it's a Pinot Grigio.
Had it, yeah, that's right. There's not many I haven't had from the Nakeds.
No.
And how is it?
Oh, it's very refreshing on this motherfucking muggy hot ass day.
How disgusting has it been? It's been killing me because we don't have aircon in my office. Like, we've only got it downstairs and in our bedroom, and it just doesn't extend to this room because they're side by side. So I'm dying. And the sun's hitting the back of the house. I'm absolutely sweltering. This is what I've been wearing all day in meetings because it's just too hot to put anything else on.
Have you got a pedestal in there?
I'm gonna have to. But it was chilly. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just got hot all of a sudden this week.
Yes.
So.
And complete mug fest where you can't
fucking hate the heat. I just hate it.
Me too. I'm more of a keep me cold. I love the cold. Warm up, rub up. And what about you, you stupid bitch? It looks like you're also drinking a white wine.
I am drinking a little bit of
tell us that.
What? It's from Naked.
Oh. It's
a tappy. It's called Tappy.
Oh. That's a familiar label.
It's a Sauv Blanc. Nice. It's called In Good Company Altschwager Canelli. But it's New Zealand. It says 2 countries, 3 wine regions, 4 friends. Wine best served as it was created.
Right.
But I think it's made in Marlborough. It's New Zealand. It's okay. It's got a little bit of a sweetness, a bit of a tang. That's okay. I don't hate it. Don't love it. Yeah.
Speaking of sweetness, I've been having a glass of red during the week because it was an open bottle.
For the antioxidants?
For the antioxidants. Apparently it's good for you. And it's a 2019 Nericon Vineyard Reserve from Jura, and it's a Jurif. I don't know what the type of wine it is, but it was really sweet and disgusting. But I still persevered and had one every night till the bottle
was it gone. A red blend?
Well, a Jurif, is that a wine?
I've never heard of it. Actually, I have seen it before. Is it Naked?
No, I think it's Compares. So it's a 2019.
Naked has all the weird names because I had a Sauvignon Cheelin the other day, Chelin. Never heard of that one before. Yeah. We drank it when Tyler and I drank 4 bottles the other night. It was the last one because I was actually saving it for the podcast because I was going to be like, oh, look at this corner. What, and I can't remember what it tastes like because it was the last bottle we drank.
I was going to say.
My husband enjoyed it though, muchly.
Good.
Yes.
And a white one, was it?
It was white, yeah. And that's purposely why I got it for this podcast. But I got that case delivered less than 2 weeks ago, and I have 4 bottles left after this bottle.
I love that for you.
Because my husband is getting into the... Although on Sunday morning after our efforts on Saturday night, he was like, I'm never drinking wine again. Never, ever, ever.
We've all been there, Tyler. You'll be back on the bottle soon, don't you worry.
Yes. But we also drank 3 bottles on the Thursday night because I had to take Link to his specialist appointment on the Friday. And we said we were just going to have 1 bottle of wine with dinner. That didn't work out. It kept going.
Never does. Yeah, so don't do the Jurif. It's a mega sweet red.
It's not nice. No. Okay.
So how's your week been?
Look, my week's been fabulous. I've got a couple of little things to touch on for you. Number 1, I went to my first annual general meeting of the rugby club.
Oh, yes.
Because I've been appointed as the canteen coordinator.
Oh, I couldn't think of anyone better for the job.
Why, thank you. So I got nominated I'm going to say I got sworn in. I didn't do a dib, but I had to get nominated and seconded and signed off to participate.
Very good. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm a little bit concerned I bit off a bit more than I can chew, because, I'm in charge of all the ordering for booze, food, coordinating volunteers.
Oh, Jesus.
Serving. And they all want health food. And I'm like, it's not going to happen, mate. We just got to deep fry that shit.
It's a footy club. You just want fucking hot chips, potato gems.
They want fruit cups. They want tacos. They want, all sorts of things. I'm like, you've got to keep it easy when you've got people volunteering, right? And so there's a barista coffee machine, and they were talking about training me how to make barista coffees, like, proper
as in proper fucking.
I was like, whoa.
We're getting an espresso and that's it.
I'm happy to turn the machine on, but we're going to get someone volunteering. Like one of the young kids can come in that needs to learn how to use the coffee machine as an extra skill. I said, they'll be making coffees. I will not be like, how am I supposed to run at things if I'm making coffees all day?
Yeah. I'd like a double soy macchiato with a touch of...
No, we don't have specialty milks.
You can have a flat white.
Full cream, thanks.
Or a long black. That's it.
No oat milk here.
Did you see? Vinny tagged me in something, actually. Because, we're going to Paris. Well, we're doing a big Europe trip at the end of the year.
Yes.
We go to Paris.
And
someone said it was in Paris, and he asked for a skinny latte on oat milk. And the guy just went, no.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So the other thing I want to touch on, I'm just going to bring it over, but people who are listening, not watching, won't be able to see this. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
So you know how I'm into the whole organic health kick, trying new ways of eating and reducing preservatives and shit that you put in your body. Again, wine and vape.
They're vegan friendly.
I've joined this club because it's really hard to find good products as well. Like if you go to Woolies and Aldi and stuff, it's the generic, organic stuff. And unless you sort of know how to create meals that are super, super healthy, it's hard to really know exactly what products to buy. Anyway, so on Instagram, I came across this Australian company that sends out like a subscription box, your subscription boxes that you get month on month. And you get she curates the best of the best products in Australia, and sends them to you. And they're all, not all of them are organic, but they're all health foods, good for you, etc., etc. So they had a deal, and I think it's $30 a box, but if you committed for 3 months, you only paid for 2 boxes instead of 3. And I was like, that's reasonable.
Give it a crack.
So I'm just going to share some of the things I got in my box with you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, there's 3 cans of drink in it, which I'm not totally thrilled about. I'm like, come on, where's the diversity? I saw one time there's these...
Diversity. Are they all the same flavour?
No, they're different. I'll get to that. But I saw one month she had these corn cobs in a plastic bag that you come and they're fresh corn, not frozen or anything. And then you pretty much just take them out, pop it in the microwave and eat it, and it's organic. And I was like, wow. Well, that's cool. I was hoping to get the corn on the cob, but I didn't. So I got some nori seaweed and just a little snack. It's a raw snack. I got some hemp protein, vanilla bean flavored for a drink.
Oh, okay, so that's a shake.
I got a protein water, pink lemonade.
Oh.
I got a little apple spice almond bar. That's vegan.
It's very big that protein water at the moment. Like, usually it's the creamy shakes or whatever. But people are getting into protein water.
Protein water is very good for you. It's another way to get your proteins. I got Beauty Sleep Bio Restore Liquid Natural Forest Berry flavour. I think I'm supposed to drink it before I go to bed. It's no added sugar.
Oh, a little shot, if you will.
I got some garden veg minis with seeds. They look green.
Oh, it's kind of it. So you don't know what you're getting in the box.
No.
It's kind of an exciting thing.
Yes, and I got it just before Tyler brought it in, just as I was about to come on the podcast. I got all natural ruby grapefruit sparkling antioxidant infusion.
Oh.
Yes, you can alcohol-free yuzu sake.
But no, we won't.
And also what's the song? La Vie en Rose?
La Vie en Rose.
La Vie en Rose. Crisp rose bubbles. And I was excited. I was like, ooh, it's alcohol in a can. It's non-alcoholic.
Oh, that sounds
But
amazing.
no added sugar.
So, how much is the box?
So it was 30, it's $30 a month, $29.95.
Reasonable.
But I got a free box. So I got
Yeah.
3 months worth of boxes for the price of 2 and free delivery.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's not bad.
I know.
And it's good, those things, because you end up trying something that you'd never actually ever buy in a shop and then go, oh, I quite like this seaweed snack.
That is exactly right. And I've been buying lots of the health food snacks for Tyler and Link as well, because they eat a lot of chips. They're both massive chip people.
Yeah.
And crackers and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's so much crap in all this stuff. And you guys eat so many chips and so many crackers and stuff. So I've started buying all the health food stuff. And it's good to like these. So she pretty much puts her seal on it and say, I've tasted these products and I think they're amazing. I picked the best products out there that are in, a healthy range. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Anyway, stupid bitch, how's your week been?
Look, the week.
How's COVID treating you?
Well, we're assuming that we're no longer positive. We didn't do another test, but you don't have to isolate or anything anymore. Even once you get COVID, if you're positive, and you can just walk around, which I think is a bit weird, but
it's crazy from where we've come, how severe the restrictions were, and now it's like no restrictions, and we lived through 2 years of it.
Yeah. So the recovery has been okay. We're still we're getting COVID brain. So Vinny and I worked from home the first 3 days this week. And yesterday, like, we're walking around, I'd get up and go to say something to him, start saying it, forget what the fuck I was saying. And he'd be like, I know, babe. I know. I get it.
It's like hungover brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like hungover brain. Yeah.
I'm not too sure where I was going with that. I'm sorry. But it's been great in the amount of TV I've caught up on. And
nice.
The Mole.
I saw Netflix. That. I actually put Netflix on this afternoon. And I went to put a bit of The Office on. Actually, I was watching in my lunch break.
It's one of the benefits of working from home, please.
I know. And The Mole came up straight away, and I was like, oh, I thought of you instantly.
Yeah, and Belinda is a massive fan of The Mole. So we were it was coming out. They were releasing like 3 episodes at a time, and over about a week, so you didn't have to wait too long. But we were messaging each other. We're like, who do you think the mole is? Yada, yada. So that was fun. They did a really good job of it in the sense of the challenges are fucking pretty awesome compared to what they had been in the past. So that was fun, and caught up on all of House of Dragon.
Oh, so that's our next thing. We just have to get through The Crown because the season 5's about to come out on Wednesday night this week. And then we're going to go because Tyler hates watching a show too when there's only one season. Yeah. He likes to know that there's a couple of seasons that he can binge if he loves it. Yeah. But he really is desperate to watch it. So we'll be watching that when we finish The Crown.
They've done the full season's out now.
Oh, right.
It's brilliant. Yeah. Vinny and I watched, we were watching it week for week. Up until about week 5, and then we just stopped. I think we got sort of sidetracked on other shows and shit. And so just ended up binging and watching the rest of it. It's fucking great.
So where'd you get on Handmaids?
So we're up to date on Handmaids.
Okay.
Yeah, Handmaids is brilliant. It's not, you don't need to work yourself up for this series. It's not right. Oh God, here we go again, or anything like that. There's some pretty fucking full-on shit that
crazy
happens.
Stuff,
the stuff that you're not going to like at all.
Oh God!
So
see, I think I wanted to have the baby taken off her. I wanted to take them to take the baby off her. That's what I really want to happen. Isn't that horrible?
Well, I mean, she kind of deserves it.
She's such an awful piece of shit human. Well, my mum lectured me a couple of days ago. She came home. She goes, "Where are you? I put you on Handmaids. I want to discuss it with you." I said, "Oh, Mum, I haven't even watched it." I said, "Bino and Vinny have watched it."
Yeah, you need to get into it because it's one I can't wait to talk to you about too. Okay. It's so good.
Right.
And you know how like shows like that, like The Walking Dead and stuff, where it's, it's traumatic every fucking episode, every season. And it kind of gets a bit old, I guess. So they've done a really good turn in how this season goes, where it's not just the same fucking devastating shit over and over again. It's really good. It's taken a great turn. So that was good. But we've also now been really invested in The Crown. I made Vinny sit down and we started from the beginning.
Where are you up to?
So we're still on season 1. I think she's just had a coronation.
Do you love her? Do you absolutely love her? And what about Philip? Do you love Philip?
The husband?
Yeah.
No, I think he's a bit of a dick.
I do as well, but he comes good. He has his moments, but Tyler absolutely adores him. And so we're in the season where it's not them anymore. It's the new actors.
Yes,
we're in
because they've
season
gotten
3.
older.
Yeah, but season 5. So we've got 2 more seasons to watch, and then when you get to season 5, it's new actors all over again.
Wow.
And they're the Diana ones. So Diana comes in season 4.
Yeah.
And then she changes actors again in season 5. So the Diana actress is only in for 1 season, then she's a new Diana in season 5.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, but I've been enjoying it. It's just really fucking interesting. And I guess
so interesting.
Yeah.
So what about the abdication, everything that went with it? I found that fascinating because I didn't even know about it until I watched The Crown.
No. And you know that her father, who passes in the beginning, he's the one the King's Speech is based on. He's the stammerer. Yeah. And that's why you see him sort of stuttering when he was trying to do things. He was doing some service, or he was not knighthood, he was something to the Philip, making him the Duke maybe or whatever, and he's stammering as he starts. And I was
what about how they lie to him about how actually sick he is and that he's pretty much going to die, but they keep it from him because they don't want to be Debbie Downers about it, and they don't want him to lose sight of like his responsibilities and stuff because he's at death's door. It's like, fucking, I'd kill people if they did that to me.
You'd want to know, yeah. All right, well, let's get into our topic of the evening, please.
It's your turn to go first, by the way.
Horror movies of yesteryear. Right, well, my first movie is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, this is horrific.
The original and the remake. Have you seen them?
I think I've seen which is one with Renee Zellweger in?
Oh, that's so that's when they did like a revamp of it, and Matthew McConaughey. That one's terrible. That is really.
I actually think that's the only one, but it's never appealed to me to watch it because it's so gross and I know what it's about.
Yes. Well, and they try and so the original was the 1979 one, I think, and then they did a remake in 2003 with Jessica Biel. And it's actually they've done a really good job of the remake. It's terrifying.
I might have seen a bit of the Jessica Biel and then turned it off. I just remember them going into a room and there's like tables that are like a workshop table covered in blood.
Yes, yeah. And they try to make it that it's based on factual events, like sort of documentary style, and they do that at the beginning of the 2003 one too. Like they have the police going in there and in the basement of the house, and then next minute Leatherface comes out and kills one of the cops, and they try to pass that off as real found footage, but it's not. It is based on a couple of killers, and one of the most notorious one would be Ed Gein, who was this guy in America. He was they call him a serial killer, but he only killed a couple of people, but what he did was also robbed bodies from graves and took the skin off the people that way and made like skull bowls and lampshades made out of skin. And that's
I recognize the name.
Yes, Ed Gein. And that's where they got the inspiration for this. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what happens in the original. A chick named Sally Hardesty, her paraplegic brother Franklin, who's in a wheelchair during the movie, the poor fucker, and their friends, they go to visit the Hardesty's grandfather's grave because they feel like they've had reports of vandalism and grave robbing happening. So
it's the original.
Yes, yeah. And so they all get into a van and they're all driving off to this homestead. But along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker who talks about his family who worked at the old slaughterhouse in that area. He borrows the paraplegic's pocket knife and then cuts himself and starts doing all weird shit. And they're getting all freaked out about it. They end up being he takes a picture of one of the guys with his camera and then demands they give money for the picture. And they're like, no, fuck you. So he burns a photo and slashes the guy in the wheelchair with the razor. They force him out of the van and they continue driving on. It's not the last that you see of this guy either. So they end up stopping at a gas station to refill their vehicle. The people at the gas station tell them the pumps are empty. So they continue on to their homestead, intending to return to the gas station once it's had its delivery. When they arrive, Franklin, the guy in the wheelchair, tells two of the friends about this local swimming hole. And this two friends are a couple. So they go off to find it. Silly buggers. So they go
Don't go in there. Don't go in there.
And on the way, they stumble upon a house that's nearby.
Ew.
Kirk enters the house, one of the friends, through an unlocked door while Pam waits outside. Leatherface, who is the killer and the chainsaw wielding fucking monster, a large mute man wearing a mask made from human skin, suddenly appears and kills Kirk with a hammer. The chick, she's wondering where he's at, so she walks in there trying to find him, and she trips into a room full of furniture that's made of human bones. So this is where they get the Ed Gein inspiration. She attempts to run, but then Leatherface just grabs her and impales her on a meat hook. Just throws her back, picks her up, and just plonks her onto this meat hook. So she's kind of paralyzed. And yeah, it's pretty brutal. And then he makes her watch while she's hanging on this meat hook as he then butchers Kirk, her boyfriend, with the chainsaw.
He was dead, right?
Yeah, he was dead. That's how she gets smacked on the head with a hammer. Their other friend, Jerry, heads out to look to see where they are when it's sunset. They're like, where the fuck are they? He heads to the house, finds Pam, the chick, who's now been taken off the meat hook and put inside a freezer. And before he can react and try and get her out, Leatherface turns up and kills him too. So then you've got the brother and sister, Sally and Franklin, who's in the wheelchair. And so darkness is falling. They're like, what the fuck are they? So they go out to find them. And as they near the neighboring house, Leatherface lunges from the darkness and kills Franklin with the chainsaw, the guy in the wheelchair. He's like, I'll get to that what happens there after I go through this little run through. So the chick then runs towards the house, finds desiccated remains of an elderly couple upstairs. She escapes from Leatherface by jumping out the second floor window, and she flees to the gas station. The guy who owns the gas station calms her down, but then he ties her up, gags her, and forces her into the truck and drives back to the house because it's all a big family-run fucking
area. I knew the gas station bit. I knew that piece how she tries to get away. Yeah,
just you poor bitch. He drives to the house, arriving at the same time as the hitchhiker who they kicked out of the car turns up, who's now revealed to be Leatherface's brother. The hitchhiker recognizes her and taunts the fuck out of her. The men torment and bound Sally while Leatherface, who's now dressed as a woman, serves dinner. So Leatherface, so it's basically the mother, the kid. Leatherface has some skin condition, and that's why he has all this different skin masks and stuff as his face. And when he's dressed up as a woman, he's actually dressed up as his mother who died, and he has some real attachment issues with.
Oh my god.
So Leatherface then and the hitchhiker bring down one of the desiccated bodies from upstairs, which is of their grandpa. And you think he's dead, but he's actually revealed to be alive when he sucks blood from a cut on Sally's finger. Like she's got a cut on her finger and the old corpse thing puts it in her mouth and starts drinking her blood. He tries to, they decide that grandpa, the best killer in the old slaughterhouse, should kill Sally as a little reward. He tries to hit her with a hammer, but he's too weak. And then a struggle ensues. She breaks free, leaps through a window, runs to the road. Leatherface and the hitchhiker are running after her. The hitchhiker gets hit by and killed by a passing truck, which is great. Leatherface attacks the truck with a chainsaw, and when the driver stops to help, he knocks Leatherface down with a pipe wrench, and Leatherface cuts his leg. The driver flees, and then Sally escapes in the back of a pickup truck as he's running after her with the chainsaw. And that's kind of the end. But the things that I took from the movie was the guy in the wheelchair has the fucking worst day ever. He has a terrible day. First of all, he's like in a wheelchair in the back of the car. Random guy takes a photo of him. He doesn't pay for it, so he gets cut. When Leatherface is chasing him, like he's rolling in his wheelchair trying to get away from this guy with the chainsaw, and he's just going around in circles and can't get away and just gets fucking sliced. The whole family is just fucked up. They make it seem like it's based on true story, as I said, but it's not really. I could not watch the sequels. It terrified me that much. I was in grade 11. Do you remember in high school, it was always horror movie night at your friend's house?
Yes. And it was like, we're going to watch it. And you didn't really have a choice. Like you had to sit through it. And some people live for that shit. They loved it so much, would laugh all the way through it. I had a friend at school and she loved, like, have you ever seen Bad Boy Bubby?
Yes.
Oh,
you sit there and don't you fucking move.
She made me watch that, and my parents watched it not that long ago because my auntie and uncle made them watch it and said, you've got to watch it, you've got to watch it. And mum and dad were like, that movie is all types of fucked up.
It is like, so much fucked up.
It's like, it's Aussie.
I know.
Comes from
You sit
Australian
there,
mind.
don't you fucking move. And then you just sit there and piss and shit himself at the table.
Oh.
But yeah, I couldn't do any of the sequels. But then they remade it in 2003. And this was at the time, again, when Scream was sort of, the popularity of Scream was out. So I'm like, yes, we'll give this a crack. As I said, Jessica Biel is in it, and they do an awesome job. Vinny and I have tried to watch it a couple of times, and automatically the fear comes in. I'll be grabbing his hand and shit, and like it terrifies me. But this was just as fucking scary as the original, and it literally gave me nightmares for weeks afterwards. And I mean proper fucking nightmares, recurring ones, where I'd be in a house with my friends, and the scenario would change all the time, but I would always know Leatherface is coming. And like, guys, Leatherface is coming. No one would give a shit. They'd be drinking, partying. But I knew shit was about to fucking get fucked up, and no one would believe me. And I'd end up getting chased by the fucker and wake up in cold sweats. And even at one point at Jones Street, where I lived with Belinda, I used to get up early and go to the gym. And I woke to my alarm one morning, and it was in the middle of one of these nightmares, and I was petrified and couldn't get out of bed and go to gym that morning. I had to lay there and just be like, oh my God. So that's my first one.
Oh my gosh. I feel traumatized just from listening to that.
We should watch we would never watch it with Tyler, I guess, but we should watch that 2003 remake.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. No, thank you. No, thanks at all.
All right, what's your first one first?
Okay, so I'm going to start off with Tales from the Crypt. So we went back and forth about this. We talked about it. And so I remember it as Tales from the Crypt, like semicolon Creepshow. I thought they were the same thing, but they're not. Okay. So Tales from the Crypt, sometimes titled HBO's Tales from the Crypt, is an American horror anthology television series that ran from 1989 to 1996 on HBO. Wow, I know. And I was going to touch on this, but I'm not going to talk about the episodes. I thought The Raft was part of this, but it's not. It's a completely different show. But the actors that were in it, Tales from the Crypt, like Ewan McGregor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, wow. Like it's crazy how many famous people are in it.
Lots of cameos. But like proper
well, because it was every episode was different, and it had different characters and different actors every time.
So through the popularity, they were able to get some names in there. That's cool.
Yeah, so there's 93 episodes. I would actually probably sit down and watch that with you from the beginning and see what it was like. Anyway, so I totally got confused with Creepshow, and I thought Creepshow, the one I want to talk about, was the first one, but it's not. It's Creepshow 2.
Yeah.
So my summation of all that is that when we were younger, and I think that Creepshow 2, because you know exactly what happens in The Raft, I feel like it might have been the only one that got released in Australia on VHS, and I feel like I know The Raft so well because my mum rented it a few times and I watched it multiple times.
Okay.
And that's why I know what happened.
It was probably because I do remember Creepshow 2 being the three stories, and The Raft is the second one, but it's probably the best out of all of the three.
Well, the original Creepshow had what's the blonde guy? The Naked Gun guy, Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen, yeah.
So I know I never watched the first one, because I don't recall watching the 5 episodes. So for Creepshow 2, they knocked it down to 3 episodes for budget reasons, and they ended up bringing the 2 other episodes out in a later version of Creepshow. I think there's 4 Creepshows. But the episode that really traumatized me was called The Raft.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through a little bit of a synopsis.
Yeah.
It's mid-October. 4 college students arrive at Cascade Beach, a desolate lake far from civilization, for some fun. While swimming to a wooden raft in the middle of the lake, Randy, one of the college students, witnesses a duck being pulled under the water by an unseen force. Once all 4 students are on the raft, they discover what Randy was so nervous about: a large black bob-like creature resembling an oil slick floating on the surface of the water. As Rachel leans over the raft to try and touch the creature, it grabs hold of her, pulls her into the lake, and digests her. The 3 panicking students remember that it's currently the off-season, meaning there is no caretaker to rescue them anytime soon. As time passes, Deke, another student, plans to swim to shore so he can bring back help. Before he can make a break for it, however, the blob seeps through the raft's cracks, grabs him by the foot, and pulls him through the raft, killing him.
Yeah.
Noting the creature is still hungry, Randy and Laverne manage to evade the creature as it tries to grab them from under the raft. When night falls, Randy and Laverne take turns watching for the creature, then eventually fall asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, Randy discovers that he and Laverne are still alive, neglecting to keep an eye on the creature. I love this part. This is just like a typical like 80s fucking movie, right?
Yeah.
Randy neglecting to keep an eye on the creature, Randy lays Laverne on the raft and begins kissing and caressing her sleeping body.
Yeah.
Laverne then awakes, screaming in agony, revealing that the creature has seeped through the cracks and has covered half of her face, much to Randy's horror.
It away, going, I remember that, yeah.
As the blob pulls her off the raft and begins consuming her, Randy jumps off the raft to swim to shore. He barely makes it and shouts, "I beat you!"
Yeah.
However, the creature rears up from the water like a wave and engulfs Randy.
Yes, I remember that. It's like, Randy, keep going, you dumb fuck.
The blob returns to the lake, leaving no evidence of the students other than their discarded clothes and still running car. Unknown to the students, there was a sign barely visible behind some thick vegetation that reads, "No swimming."
That's it. No swimming. Nuke the fucking lake.
That one traumatized me. Like, I remember, and I would have been so young, like when I watched it.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me tell you what year it came out.
I remember watching it on TV.
1987.
Specials. Yeah. I remember watching it in the early 90s when it would come out at Halloween on TV specials and shit like that. Yeah, I loved it.
But I've told you the story about how my mum used to literally force me to sit next to her and watch scary movies with her and be like, "It's just cameras. There's just actors.
It's not real.
There's not real. There's just cameras behind them. No, so they're just acting." And
my little brain can't comprehend the shit you're making me watch, Mum.
My mother is a fiend for horror movies, I tell you. So that was my first one.
Right. So my next one is When a Stranger Calls.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this.
Have you not seen this either? So this was another classic from the 70s. It was released in 79, and it was another one that they remade in the early 2000s, but the remake is nowhere near as chilling as the original. And again, that may have been based on my age when I watched the original compared to when I watched the remake. But basically, there's this chick, she's babysitting these children of this doctor at his home, and the children are asleep, and she starts receiving these phone calls, and first off she'll be like hello and just hang up, or it'll start heavy breathing and then hang up.
Oh, it sounds like The Babysitter.
It could be.
Remember the R.L. Stein book, The Babysitter?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So he may have gotten his inspiration from this movie for that. So the calls, just the frequency and the threat level of the calls start to just become, increase with each passing hour, and she becomes quite frightened. So she calls the police, who tells her to keep the perpetrator on the line long enough for them to trace the call next time he calls. But when he starts calling as well, he starts saying things like, "Have you checked the children who are upstairs?"
Yes, I do know this. That's children? Exactly like The Babysitter.
Yeah, and it's quite freaky because that's all you hear, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Anyway, so she calls the police. They tell him next time she calls, keep him on the line long enough. So he calls again, and she does just that. And then when they hang up, the police call straight away, and they're like, "The call's coming from inside the house. It's somewhere from inside the house. You need to fucking get out." And she sees the intruder's shadow at the top of the stairs. But unbeknownst to her, an English merchant seaman named Kurt Duncan killed the children shortly after she had arrived, and escaped, and he left her unharmed. But sorry, he didn't escape. He leaves her unharmed and gets caught. And after his trial, he's sent to a psychiatric facility. So we fast forward 7 years. The guy escapes from the psychiatric facility. The doctor of the kids the father of the kids that he'd killed, who was a doctor, hires this investigator who investigated the earlier murders and is now a private detective to find Duncan, the killer. Not knowing that the investigator's after him, the homeless Duncan is beaten after harassing a woman, Tracy, in a downtown bar. Duncan follows Tracy to her apartment. She takes pity on him. She tries to be nice to him while getting him to leave, hoping that they'll be the last she sees of him. Meanwhile, the increasingly obsessed detective trying to find him confides to his friend his intention to kill Duncan rather than have him recommitted. His friend's Lieutenant Garber. Garber, who was also present at the crime scene of the original murders, agrees to collaborate. So they track Duncan down to Tracy's residence. He tells Tracy that Duncan literally tore the doctor's children apart with his bare hands. And Tracy reluctantly agrees to act as bait at the bar that evening in an effort to draw out the killer. He never appears. After the investigator leaves, however, Duncan comes out from hiding inside Tracy's closet. Tracy screams for help, and the investigator returns, chasing him from the scene, but loses his trail in the streets of downtown LA. Fast forward again. So Jill, who was the original babysitter, is now married with 2 children. And one night she and her husband, Stephen, go to dinner to celebrate his promotion while their children are babysat by a chick named Sharon. While at the restaurant, Jill gets a call and hears Duncan's voice saying, "Have you checked the children at the restaurant?" The police escort her back to the home and discover that everything is fine. Upon hearing about the incident, the investigator and the lieutenant, his friend, the lieutenant alerts the investigator, who tries to call Jill, but finds that the line is dead, in an eerie parallel to Jill's original stalking. Later that night, Jill hears Duncan's voice as the closet door appears to open in her bedroom. She tries to awake her husband, only to realize that the man laying next to her is the intruder. He chases Jill across the room and attempts to kill her, but Clifford arrives in time and shoots Duncan in the chest, killing him. Her husband's found in the closet unconscious but alive, and the children are safe.
It sounds a little bit like Halloween too, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I remember watching this as a kid, and it would have been no more than 7, and it fucking traumatized the fuck out of me. But my brother Lee was 14 at the time, and back in this is early 80s, where latchkey kids, like we were left alone a lot, and 14-year-olds were fine to babysit other kids.
Yes, and your older siblings would try to find ways to scare the absolute bejesus out of you, by just completely fucking with your head.
Well, we fucked up with Teddy's head. So Stuart and I, while we were at home and he was babysitting, we used to call up their house and he'd be babysitting and going, "Have you checked the children?" Terrorizing. Poor Tedward.
There was no mobile phones either to text people and go, guys, help me.
Any of that. It was all just landline and the screaming of your voice. Yeah, poor Teddy. That's my next one. What's yours?
Okay, so my next one is the Poltergeist. Well, Poltergeist.
Oh, yeah.
So Poltergeist is a 1982 American supernatural horror film written by Steven Spielberg. From a story by Steven Spielberg. He was also one of the directors. The film focuses on a suburban family whose home is invaded by ghosts that abduct their youngest daughter. I'm going to read the synopsis.
Hello?
It's a little bit long. So Stephen and Diane move into this community living.
Yeah.
It's not community. It's like a housing plan, gated planned community. Yeah. So late one night, Carol Ann, who is the youngest, they've got 3 children. They've got Dana is 16, Robbie's 8, and 5-year-old Carol Ann. Late one night, Carol Ann converses with the family's television set while it displays post-broadcast static. That night, she again fixates on the TV, and a ghostly white hand emerges from the screen, followed by a violent earthquake. As the family awakens from the earthquake, Carol Ann declares, "They're here."
That's it. That's what's there.
Yeah.
Bizarre events occur the following day. A glass of milk spontaneously breaks, silverware bends, the furniture moves on its own.
Remember the chair thing? She shows her husband, she puts the chair in one spot and it just slides. Yeah.
And remember when he doesn't really believe her and they walk back into the room and all the cupboard doors are open?
Yeah. Yeah, that was freaky.
The phenomenon initially seems benign, but soon grows more sinister. During a severe thunderstorm, the gnarled backyard tree seemingly comes alive.
Yes.
A large limb crashes through the children's bedroom and grabs Robbie.
Yep.
And attempts to devour him. While the family rushes outside to rescue him, Carol Ann is drawn into a portal inside the closet.
Yes. And it ain't Narnia.
Yeah. After saving Robbie from the tree, which got sucked into a tornado, the family frantically search for Carol Ann, only to hear her voice call out from the TV.
Yes. Mommy.
Parapsychologist, Dr. Martha Lesh, I totally want to be a parapsychologist. Like, if I honestly had my days again to just go to uni and study like supernatural and become an expert in that field and just write papers on it, that would be my
interesting.
That would be my dream job. Yeah. There's no money in it, and they're not credited in any type of way. Like, you know, they're not even published in any type of journal. It's just all like niche journals. Yeah. I did a bit of research on it. It'd be like a hobby. Yeah, it's like a Mulder and Scully thing, but how cool would that be to be your job? Like, if you got paid to do that, like research and try to find a link between evidence and fact and
it actually
and hoax and stuff. I know, totally. So Martha Leach arrives with team members to investigate. They determine there is a poltergeist intrusion involving multiple ghosts. Meanwhile, Stephen, the dad, learns from his boss that the development that they live in was built on a former cemetery and the graves were moved to a nearby location. I'm sorry, don't ever fucking build anything on a cemetery, you dumb fucks.
And is it an Indian burial ground or so? Or is that The Simpsons?
I don't think so. I think there's other ones. There's other horror movies that are based on that. I don't know if it's exactly that. But actually, no, it's not, because I'll talk about the sequels in a minute and what it actually ends up being.
Yeah.
So Dana and Robbie are sent away for safety because Carol Ann's in the telly, in the portal.
Yeah.
So Dr. Leash calls in Tangina Barron's a spiritual medium, the little lady that talked with that really cute little voice.
Yeah.
She determines that the spirits are lingering in a different sphere of consciousness and are not at rest. They are attracted to Carol Ann's life force. She also detects a dark presence she calls the Beast, who is restraining Carol Ann and manipulating her life force in order to prevent the other spirits from crossing over. So the Beast is in charge of all these bodies who've been buried, and is using Carol Ann's baby life force, because she's only 5, to hold them back even more so. The entrance to the other dimension is in the children's bedroom closet and exits through the living room. Diane, secured by a rope, passes through the portal, guided by another rope threaded through both portals. Diane retrieves Carol Ann and they drop through the ceiling to the living room floor covered in ectoplasm.
Yeah, I remember that.
As they recover from the ordeal, Tangina, the little lady with a cute voice, proclaims the house is clean.
This house is clean.
And then she leaves. She's like, then she goes out. Yeah. Shortly after, the Freeling family have nearly finished packing to move out of the house because they're done. They're like, don't give a fuck if it's clean. We're out, motherfuckers. I would be too. I would have fucking left 100%. From the beginning. I would have been like, I'm not going back in it. When all the cupboards open, I would have been like, see you later, brother. It's not going to happen. So before the family is to leave for the Holiday Inn, Stephen goes to his office while Dana is out on a date. So she's the older child.
Yeah.
Leaving Diane, the mum, at home with the boy and Carol Ann. The Beast ambushes Diane and the children, aiming for a second kidnapping attempt. The unseen force drives Diane to the backyard in the pouring rain, dragging her into the flooded swimming pool excavation. Skeletal corpses and coffins float up around her in the muddy hole. Diane crawls out and rushes back into the house. She rescues the children and they escape to the outside as more coffins and bodies erupt from the ground. Stephen, accompanied by his boss, who said the community was built on the burial ground, arrives home to the mayhem and realizes that only the gravestones were relocated.
That's right.
The development was built over the abandoned bodies. The Freelings, the family, jump into their car and collect Dana just as she returns home from her date. Do you remember that? She's like, pulls up in the car and they're like, "We're going in the car, we're going."
We're out.
They flee the house as it implodes into the portal while stunned neighbors look on.
I remember that too, yeah, because it just all gets sucked into a
Sucked
little
in.
ball. Yeah.
But this is my absolute favorite part. The family checks into their room at the Holiday Inn where Stephen, the dad, promptly rips out the TV and shoves it outside. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah. A little comedic end.
I love that. So it's considered to be one of the best films of 1982. Like out of all the films that came out in 1982,
it's the
like
original
the best.
Paranormal Activity, really, isn't it?
Do you know, as scary as I find stuff and how freaked out, I always watched the Poltergeist. Whenever it came on telly, I could still sit through it. It terrified the shit out of me, but I still love it. I can't explain why I love it when I'm so scared. I'm such a scaredy cat. So sequels and remakes, and I thought this was really notable. And this is going to talk to you a little bit about what happened with the bodies. So in 1986, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, retained the family but introduced a new motive for the beast's behavior, tying him to an evil cult leader named Henry Kane, who led his religious sect to their doom in the 1820s as the beast. So they're basically identifying who the beast was.
Right.
So as the beast, Kane went to extraordinary lengths to keep his flock under his control, even in death. The original motive of the cemetery's souls disturbed by the housing development was thereby altered. The cemetery was now explained to be built above a cave where Kane and his flock meet their ends. So all those bodies was the cemetery of all the cult people that got killed throughout being part of the cult.
Yeah.
It also reveals that the women of the family are actually psychics. So Carol Ann, Diane, Dana, they're all psychics.
Oh.
So Poltergeist 3 in 1988 finds Carol Ann as the sole original family member living in an elaborate Chicago skyscraper owned and inhabited by her aunt, uncle, and cousin. Do you remember the glass windows?
Yes.
Kane follows her there and uses the building's decorative mirrors as a portal to the earthly plane. A remake of the original film was made by 20th Century Fox, which stars Sam Rockwell, Jared Harris, and Rosemary DeWitt in 2015, which I didn't know about. I didn't know they made one in 2015.
Yeah, no, I knew they did a remake, but I don't think it's as good as the original.
I'm totally going to watch it now. Like I have to. And I actually really like Rosemary DeWitt. I think she's really, and I like Sam Rockwell. So I really want to see it. But in 2019, it was announced that the Russo brothers would helm a new remake. So there's a whole new one coming out.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
But it was so scary.
It was. And do you remember the whole curse that was attached to it, apparently?
I put some notes on because the little girl died
after 2, was it? I don't think it's her in number 3.
Yes, you're right. And she died of multiple heart attacks.
Yes.
Related to the fact she got septic shock because her appendix burst.
Yes, that's right. And then the oldest daughter, she was killed by her boyfriend, I think, in a domestic abuse.
That's
and
right.
Then there was production crew that died as well.
Yeah. It's totally thought to be cursed. And remember how cute she was, a little girl? She was like this super cute little thing, like gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think, and I could be talking about the wrong movie, but I think the skeletons that were in the pool, they used real skeletons because it was cheaper than buying fake skeletons. And they didn't know about it until they were filming, and that was sort of to give more of the scare for the.
You would never get away with that in this day and age.
No, sorry, Bob.
That is bullshit if that really happened.
I'm pretty sure. I think it's that one, or it could be A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I think it's that Poltergeist one.
That's fucked up. I just remember it going, they're here.
Yeah, and this house. It's clean.
Yeah. And her talking through the TV and the mother just sat in front, like trying to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah. Help me, Sherry. It burns.
So scary. Okay, yours is next.
Okay, so I'm going to do Friday the 13th.
Oh.
So we all know the premise of these movies of Friday the 13th. There's so many sequels and so many spin-offs, including crossovers with Freddy from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
So there's 11 in total and a redo of the original. Jason Voorhees.
Isn't there a series as well?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if it's Friday the 13th, unless it's coming out. They did a series of I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream. I don't know. I haven't seen
I'm
it.
pretty sure that it must be just about to come. I thought there was a much older version series, but I could be wrong. But I know they're bringing one out.
Well, I'll be looking forward to watching that. So the original starts with, Jason Voorhees was a kid with development issues and he attends summer camp, which is massive in America, as we know. And when he's swimming, the camp counselors neglect him and the other kids because they're more interested in getting physical with each other, please. And Jason
It's all about sex in the 80s, wasn't it?
100%. And
Jason, boobies. Yeah. I'm just like, it was always titty shots.
Never cock, just always
the titties. Yeah.
And Jason ends up drowning in the lake. And in the original, it ends up being his mother who goes around taking revenge on the counselors by brutally killing them. And she's stopped at the end and taken out. And then you see one of the counselors on the lake. I think they're in a boat, maybe.
Yes,
and the corpse
I remember
of Jason jumps up and grabs them and takes them down and kills them. And that's the end of the movie. And then each movie after that is Jason Voorhees slaying everybody.
He's the one with the hockey mask, isn't he? The white hockey mask.
But I don't think he gets the mask until part 3.
Okay.
So the second one is just walking around with this deformed face. And most of them are set at the camp, but then there's ones where Jason takes Manhattan, which is part 8, where he goes to New York. There's even Jason Goes to Space and Jason Goes to Hell. So
I know Jason Goes to Hell. I didn't hear about the Jason Goes to Space.
It's like Jason 2215 or some shit. And I think they take him out there to fucking get rid of him in space, basically. But anyway, the movies, these are the types of movies that really freaked me out a lot. Like Chucky, I know, and Poltergeist and stuff are scary, but they don't really scare me as much as these ones. No offense, please. But the fact that it was just a giant man with a machete and a hockey mask always freaks the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
One of my greatest fears is actually waking up in bed and seeing someone of that stature just stood at the end of my bed or in the doorway, you know, like you're really fucked.
You watch so much horror for someone who has terrible nightmares about it.
It gets freaked out. You can try and put up a fight with them, you know, you're fucked.
And give them the finger.
My last sayonara. But as part of the horror movie rule that was present in this series, and he mentions it, I can't remember his name in fucking Scream, the funny guy.
Oh, yeah, the one who
There's rules.
Yeah, there's rules in a horror movie. Yeah.
So if you're having sex, you're fucked. And that happened all throughout all these movies, as you said, in the 80s. So here's some of his most warped murders. So early in the series, he used to trap his victims a lot to get to get them. So he'd set a snare, and one of them catches this guy by a snare. He's pulled up by his legs. He's with his friends, and they go off to get a knife to cut him down. But when they come back, Jason's already slit his throat and let him bleed for his friends to find. There's this other one where this guy shags a chick, and he has a talent of walking on his hands. It's like his party trick. So he has sex with this chick, and then he gets on his hands and walks to the fridge to go get himself a beer. Jason appears and just slices him in half with the machete vertically from the crotch down. And I think too, like as the series goes on, I know they try to get more inventive with the killing. There's this one where he grabs this chick from a tent while she's in a sleeping bag trying to cower from him, just drags her. So he's got the end of the sleeping bag closed, so she can't get out. She's just dragging her, just picks her up and smashes her against a tree until she dies in the sleeping bag. There's one where he finds this boxer, and this boxer's like, "Come on, Jason, I'll fuck you up," you know, and starts boxing, like getting ready to fight Jason. And Jason just punches him in the face and takes his head clean off. It just goes flying.
This is what my mum used to say about all of them. She'd be like, "They're funny. They're really funny, actually. Like, you can actually watch it. Got a really funny storyline attached to them." I'm like, no.
When you're an adult and you've seen all this shit, Mum, when you're a kid and it's the first time, it's like, what is going on? There's another one where people are shagging and he's under the bed and he just pushes a spear up through the bottom, impaling the two of them as they're rooting. And finally, there's this one where this mother and son, I think they're living in a cabin near the lake. And from memory, the mother is cooking something in a huge pot, big bubbling oil or some shit, and he just pushes her face in it and cooks her face off. And then the son, who'd just been taunted by some of the kids, he's riding around. He's got the shits. He's riding around on his motorcycle, and just in circles, screaming obscenities. And this machete just comes out, fucking takes his head clean off.
That's so fucked.
And that's my Friday the 13th.
Okay, so leading on from my mother traumatizing me, I'm going to talk about some movies that really shouldn't have scared me as much as they did. But so I haven't mentioned this before, but so we had lots of cousins growing up who were quite older than me. So most weekends there was always heaps of other kids around, and especially the older kids. And so my mum would always put on scary movies, and I used to literally hide behind the couch. I'd be like, I can't watch this. I'm like hiding behind the couch. So she'd be like, oh God, don't listen to Sky.
So traumatic.
Go in your room if you want. I'd be like, no, I can hear it from my room. I want to be here with everybody, but exactly. I don't want to watch it. So I'd sit with my back to the couch, behind the couch, so I couldn't actually see. But occasionally I'd poke my head around and just like...
The curiosity gets you. Yeah, and when you go to your room, you're by yourself in your room.
I know.
You're more likely to get killed.
A scary movie, so I'd be more terrified. And so that's how I sat through Friday the 13th. That's how I sat through the Nightmare on Elm Street. That's how I sat through Halloween and a whole bunch of other of them. Well, I just mostly heard it and just peeked from time to time.
I'll tell you a quick funny story. Sorry to interject, but it's funny that you say that because I remember watching Halloween H2O, which was the 20th anniversary of it, with Maria. And it was just Maria and I watching it. And Maria was watching me watch the movie. And then when she saw that like it was not a killing scene, she'd watch it. But then she'd just turn and watch me and watch my reactions to the actual movie itself.
So I got used to my mum saying, let's watch this really cool movie. And then I'd start watching it. It would end up being a horror movie. And then I'd be completely traumatized. So movies that I was completely terrified by and my mum still gives me shit about to this day is E.T. I couldn't watch E.T. because the fucking he freaked me out, and I would like get really upset and start to cry. My sister, who was younger than me, would sit there and watch him. She's like, Sky, it's not scary, just watch it. Like, no, I'm sitting behind the couch.
I can't actually give you too much shit about that just quickly because I remember when I was a child, the Moscow Olympics opening ceremony scared the fuck out of me because there was a giant bear mascot walking around, and it traumatized me in the 1980, and it made my parents turn it off. They couldn't watch it anymore.
Another one was Gremlins. Absolutely could not watch the Gremlins. It terrified I love the little cute gremlin, but the rest of it I was like, no, not interested. And also Flight of the Navigator. Have you seen Flight of the Navigator?
Saw that at cinema. Loved it.
So
that's when I first learned about flavored cola. Cherry cola and shit. I wanted a cherry cola.
Well, I read the synopsis in preparation for this, and I'm not going to go into it because it's quite lengthy, but the whole storyline is actually really fucking cool. And I have seen it when I got a little bit older. I watched it, but it was another one where Mum and Jason and Sarah and our cousins would sit there and watch it, and I would sit behind the couch, not watching it.
Sarah Jessica Parker's in it, isn't she?
Yes. One of her debut movies, like one of her first movies she ever did, even before Girls Just Want to Have Fun, I think.
I think she gives him the cherry cola.
she's in the
like a nurse or something.
Yeah, she's a nurse. So that the doctor comes and wants to check his brain and stuff, and they end up taking him to the facility so they can check, and they find out he's got all these alien records in there that are 50 years ahead of where their research is and flight plans and stuff like that. And because remember so what happens is he's going to pick up his brother.
Yeah.
And he falls down in a hole and he disappears for 8 years, and he wakes up in the same spot, and he comes back and his brother's older than
8
him.
years older. Yeah.
There's missing posters everywhere of him because he's been a missing child. And then it's not NASA, but it's some facility comes and is like, come and we'll figure out what happened to you if you come to this facility, but they just want to get what's in his brain.
Yes.
And Sarah Jessica Parker helps him escape because he gets into the trolley.
In the little trolley, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the trolley. And then he ends up getting picked up by the navigator again.
Yeah.
And then all the little Muppets come out.
I can't remember the Muppets.
And there's like a little tiny worm Muppet, like, talking to him. It scared the shit out of me, man. I was terrified.
Yeah, that was a really good movie.
They're about to remake that too.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the first CGI film, apparently.
Okay.
And Disney was supposed to make it, and then they didn't because they weren't into it. And so some other company made it, and then Disney brought the rights from them pretty much as soon as they finished it because it was so good.
It was so popular, yeah.
But it was made with a Norwegian company as well. So they were like investors. And so it was filmed in, it was filmed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Norway.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was filmed in Norway at all.
Yeah. But I was completely traumatized by my mother and my cousins.
For E.T., I think that's hilarious too. Because Drew Barrymore was such a dote in that. She was so
She was. I was terrified. I would refuse to watch it. Refuse.
Elliot.
Yeah.
Yum.
I wasn't really keen on aliens as a whole. I was like, I don't trust them. They're freaky.
What's going on here?
And what's with the fucking gremlins? Don't feed them after midnight. Don't get water on them. Fuck that shit.
That's what confused me about with the don't feed them after midnight. I'm like, but when's the time that you can start feeding them from again? Like, there needs to be a cutoff.
Is it 6 a.m.?
Is it 7 a.m.? Exactly. That confused me. Yeah, Gremlins was a bit more scary, but it's definitely a Christmas movie, and I do love Gremlins. And Gremlins 2, the new batch. I think they're doing a third one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They just remake everything, don't they? Everything just gets remade. It's like,
which is
come up with some new ideas.
It's kind of good for us in the sense that you get to relive your youth or your favourite, that nostalgia.
Yeah, totes. All right, over to you. That was my little segue. I've got one more left.
Yeah, I've only got 2 left now that are just honourable mentions. Halloween, of course. The original was sort of scary. It didn't freak me out as much as when I watched it back as a teenager as fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre did, or Friday the 13th.
I absolutely agree with that. I remember being terrified watching when I was young, but it's actually more suspense, the first one, isn't it? It's more suspense, like, where is he? What's he doing? Blah, blah, blah.
Her hiding in the cupboard and shit.
Yeah. But the later ones are quite terrifying.
Yes. And like, it's the same thing about a giant person with a mask who'll fuck you up and apparently never die. Yeah. And of course, it did bring the OG scream queen, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, I love her so much. I'm such a Jamie Lee Curtis fan. I always have been, always will be. I love her to death. She can't do no wrong by my standards. I just think she's the boss.
I think she's awesome too. And while the originals were good, there was heaps of spin-offs that came out of it. As I said to you, H2O, Halloween Resurrection, that they both star Jamie Lee, and remakes of it as well, which is sort of just where they've redone it.
Did they ever do ones without her? Is she in every single one?
No. So Halloween 2, she was in Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. Then Halloween 3 was the Curse of the Witch, I think it was. And that was where some company made these masks and you put them on, and it would kill the kids on Halloween or make them do evil shit. And I think Halloween 4 and 5, she's not in as well.
I remember it went up to 5, the original version, the original series went up to 5, and then they brought H2O out, didn't they?
Yeah, and then Halloween Resurrection after that, and then they did the remakes, and now we've got the new one about to come out. The new ones, yeah. So they're all good slasher style flicks. And I have to say, I've been loving the sequels that they've been doing in the last few years. So they're basically the concept of these new ones. So there's 3 that are coming out. The third one's about to come out now, or it's already out. And then there was...
And it's got that other blonde chick in, who's about our age now. She's one of the main characters too. I think she's Jamie Lee's daughter, isn't she?
Oh yes, I know who you mean. Yeah.
Blonde, and then skinny,
and then her granddaughter. Yeah, and her granddaughter's Jamie Lee's granddaughter. Well, in the show, isn't it as well? But I have to say, I've been loving the sequels they've been doing. So they basically, how they started this was saying that all the other movies after the original Halloween were all fan fiction and made up and, Hollywood produced and blah, blah, blah. That's the concept. And the original Halloween movie was right. And then the sequels from 2018 are the real follow-ups. First one in 2018 was great. Vinny and I saw it in gold class, and it really had me on edge. It was like that brilliant. I was squeezing Vinny's hand and peeking through gaps in my fingers watching it. It had all that suspense.
Is Jamie Lee in that one?
Yes, yeah. And that's when she's got her daughter and her granddaughter, and they all look, and she's like a proper fucking boss. tank girl type thing. She's got a house set up because she knows Jason's
like Terminator.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sarah Connor.
Yeah, Sarah Connor. Yeah.
And then the sequel, Halloween Kills, was okay. There's some of it that's kind of gets a bit weird or a bit far-fetched. Like there's an escaped mental patient at the town, and the town is going ballistic thinking it's him who's the killer. And it just really shows, I guess, what mob mentality can do. But then the final one, Halloween Ends, is meant to be brilliant. So I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah.
You go next.
Okay, so my last one, and again, to parlay into, my trauma as a child, but this wasn't inflicted by my mum. Okay, so this is one time I was, I don't even know where I was. I think I was at a friend of my family's house, because I remember my older cousins being there, but mum and dad weren't around. And I knew that they had said to me, because they knew what a scaredy cat I was. And so I used to, if I was terrified of a nighttime, I just wouldn't go to sleep and scream out to mum and dad all night, being like, ah! And also be like, I need to do a wee. Someone needs to come to the toilet with me.
I ain't going alone.
So when Chucky came out, they said under no circumstances are you allowed to watch this film, Sky. And I was like, done. Fucking, I don't want to see it.
Sounds good to me.
A doll that comes to life and kills people? Fuck no. Anyway, so I got peer pressured one night by my cousins when we were at a friend's house, and they were there, and my parents weren't there, and they were like, just watch it, we'll protect you, just sit on the couch with us, you're going to be fine, it's not going to be that scary, we're going to sit side by side with you, you're going to be fine. Also, don't fucking dob. Because they weren't allowed to watch it either, because I think it was R-rated, the first Chucky.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think it was like, we weren't supposed to watch it anyway, so we watched it. Literally, they just took the piss out of me the whole night while I was practically rocking in a corner, completely traumatized. And then I've told you the story about in our 90s flashbacks about my doll that I got, the baby talk, and I ended up getting that for Christmas the same year, and I was like, put that fucking thing out of this house, put it in the bin, and they were like, why do you like it? It's a doll that you can feed and talks to you. And it's like, no.
I wanted to talk to me.
No. So Chucky traumatized me in such a way that if I go to a Halloween party or a fancy dress party and someone is dressed as Chucky, I literally am done. I'm like, I'm out.
Can't be here.
I can't be here. And every time I see the remakes or the TV shows or anything else, or a trailer pops up on my feed, I'm like, meh, no way.
And the TV series is really critically acclaimed and has good LGBT representation.
I do not care. I do not care. The premise of that little fucked up boy child is just so disgusting to me, and I hate him so much.
I'm your friend to the end. This is the end, friend.
And then he just kills everyone. And I remember one scene where there's like someone in a car and they're sat there, and then Chucky's in the back and gets a plastic bag and just puts it over his head and then just chokes him.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I like honestly checked my closets, checked under my bed, didn't matter, because you'd look under the bed for Chucky and he wasn't there, and then all of a sudden he was there. And all of a sudden he would come up. Like he was always hiding in some spot that you couldn't see him, and he'd just come out of nowhere, and I was like.
And he killed the babysitter, and then because they had his little good guy doll shoe footprints that were the same size as the kids, and they thought the kid was doing it. Yeah.
Fuck Chucky, man. Fuck Chucky forever.
I love that.
All right, your turn.
All right, so just one more special mention, and
I hope it's the one that I'm thinking of, because otherwise I'm going to have to add one to the list.
Okay, well, this one is in the same sort of vein as you. Like, it's one I saw as a child, and it's fucked me up for my life. Jaws.
Oh yes, thank God. This is on my list as well, but I knew you were going to do it, and I hoped you weren't going to forget about this. Is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love this movie so much.
And everyone has had to have seen the original of the movie, really, and it was done so well. The suspense. Before I go any further, have you heard How Do You Tell a Gay Shark? Everyone's seen the original movie, and it's the reason I have such a fear of the ocean. I
love it.
And sharks.
See, sharks don't freak me out like other people do. It's weird how some people are scared about certain things, but sharks don't freak me out that much.
I can't go in the ocean where I'm swimming freely out in there without looking behind my back. We went.
You need someone ahead of you. Are you like that? So if there's someone ahead of you, you're okay.
Me, telling me that it's all clear. We went to Thailand, you know, where Phi Phi Island, where the beach is filmed. There's boats everywhere and everyone's swimming in there. I jumped in there, swam around, just did it, then got out on the boat and was on shark watch for Vinny, just looking around, terrified. I won't let Vinny go in that cage shark thing.
No, never.
My heart would just be fucked the whole time.
And that's just an idiotic thing to do. I don't care if the cage is super just indestructible or whatever. I don't really care. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, that you would get in a cage with a shark who's trying to eat you.
And big lumps of meat. And if you've seen that one, there's one where a great white.
Thing ever. People who do that deserve to die in that situation because it's a shark whose like whole being is about eating you.
Yeah, and they're throwing lumps of meat around to fucking get them in there. Did you see there's a video of a guy that was in there and the great white went over the top into it, thrashed around in the cage while he was just in a ball down the bottom. He was survived. Yeah. And when it got out,
I have seen that. I bet his shaves. Do you know what I love? I love that Mick. Is it Mick Fanning video?
Oh yeah, where he punches.
Where he punches the shark. Yeah. That's best Aussie thing ever.
Yeah, and he survived too.
I would freak out. I would still up. My reaction in times of crisis is to just freeze. I'm terrible. That's why, like, anytime I'm at work, like at a new job, and they're like, "Do you be like a first aid officer or something?" I'm like, "There's a serious like, sure, I can do it in name, but if there's a serious crisis where someone needs some serious medical attention, I'm
gonna need backup. I'm gonna need some backup.
I will freak out. I'll fall apart."
But the thing with Jaws, though, there was a kid in there called Sean, who was one of the characters who was in all four of the
brother,
movies.
The youngest brother.
The youngest one. He was about my age. And I just remember hearing everyone screaming, Sean, get out of the water. Sean, get out of the water. Especially in
and the mother goes, Sean's on that boat. Yes. Sean's on that boat, the sailboat at the end.
When they're in the sequel Jaws 2, where all the kids are on the catamarans and shit like that. And the Jaws is getting him and he gets knocked off and he's floating. And they're like, Sean, don't move. And the shark's going around and around and they're telling him not to flail because they'll attract him. It scared the fuck out of me.
What about the later movies where the shark was like intelligent because it knew that they had killed his
ancestors?
Yeah, like his brothers or his children or something like that.
So it was
coming after them just specifically
people.
Because...
Yeah, that was a bit dumb. But I used to have fears when I would go into bed that water would start rising up in my bedroom and the shark would come, like at a very young age. But yeah, it terrified me. But the second one terrified me the most.
You have the most insane dreams of anyone I've ever known.
Well, they were dreams. That was just me laying in bed in fear, thinking it was going to happen. It was just my imagination. But yeah, the Jaws brings down a fucking helicopter in Jaws 2. But Jaws 3 was great though, where he's in SeaWorld. And it's got the baby.
Oh my God.
And that's the people doing the pyramid on the skis, you know, the pyramid ski. And in the aquarium and shit like that. And they see a corpse floating by. The fourth one was all right, but Sean actually dies in that one. So
I don't know if I've seen the fourth one actually.
Jaws the Revenge. That's the one I think where it's sort of going, and the mother's in it and they end up killing it with the point on the sailboat as they're flying through the water. It jumps up. It's a jumping Jaws.
That might have been the one where he was going after the family specifically because
I think so,
yeah, I have seen it, but it's been a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah. So that's all I've got.
Okay, well, I just thought of two really funny ones that I need to tell you about just while we've been talking. Did you ever watch Piranhas?
Oh, I remember it. I haven't seen like Piranha 3D or anything.
But the first one was where they got released into a swimming pool and pretty much everything. It's like people are like having sex in the swimming pool and then all of a sudden these like blood-eating piranhas come and just like eat them. So as much as I didn't really care, like I love Jaws so much and it doesn't scare me in real life, piranhas absolutely scared me. So for
the
probably
teeth and everything,
a year or two after I saw that film, every time I went into a pool, I'd be like, is there a piranha in there?
Yeah, fishy.
Am I going to die today in this pool?
Do you remember Alligator as well?
No, I remember what was the python one? Anaconda. Remember Anaconda?
Yeah. They got squeaks as big.
I actually loved Anaconda.
Yeah, I enjoyed Anaconda.
Those weird ones that are like far-fetched, that are horror, I quite enjoy. I like Anaconda.
I liked Anaconda too. But Alligator was where they flushed a kid's pet alligator down the toilet and it lived in the sewers and became this huge fucking beast. It turns up at a wedding and eats the bride
I
and
think
shit like
I
that.
do vaguely remember. No, there's other. I'm thinking of Lake Placid. That's an
that was
alligator.
a good one. That
was a good one. So just one last one that I was thinking about when you were talking about the Chainsaw Massacre was Jeepers Creepers. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Because we were talking about Justin Long in the last podcast.
Yeah.
And they're redoing Jeepers Creepers at the moment. And that scared the absolute fucking bejeebus out of us. Like remember he was like flew in and stuff. He could fly.
Yeah, it's like some
the
bird
big
demon
crazy
thing. Yeah.
wings.
And when it gets on top of the school bus and it's got the license plate, "Be eating you soon" or something.
Yeah, and
or
the song was like,
you.
Jeepers Creepers.
Where'd you get those peepers? Because it took
Where'd
the
you get
eyes,
those
didn't
eyes?
it?
Where'd you get those eyes?
Because he used to take their eyes, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a good one, Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers.
Well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our terrifying and truly torturous yet tantalizing tales from the movie Crypt of Days Gone By.
Tune in next week for What's the Haps, when we discuss the topics that piqued our interest in the month of October. Boo. Good night, you stupid bitches.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That's stupid.